since 2015.
So you've been keeping a file.
Yeah, of like everything of.
And you call that file what?
It's called Thoughts of a Bipolar Man.
So what are some of the things that you have in that
Let's see.
file?
This one is back to the cutting board. There's someone out there for all of us. Recently, he walked away. Oh, resentlessly, he walked away. That's a good one. That would be a good one. Though.
So why do you have this file in your phone? Like, what's the point?
Because it's like a pivotal moments in your life where you really, well, for me at least, that I really need to notate when change is happening and stuff. It's like if I don't have them in here, it's like liability. Basically, taking account for my own action, realizing where you didn't fit in.
So you have a file in your phone that says "Thoughts of a Bipolar Man." So are these certain quote unquote episodes that you've had, or
episodes just different times? Basically, it's like I would say a pivotal moment where I feel like I have something to say and nobody's listening. Like,
so
this
you
is
write
my
those
outlet.
thoughts down.
Right. It's like my book that's never going to be published. It's like an unpublished journal, basically. It's like the little boy who wants to speak out for the grown-up.
That nobody is hearing.
Exactly.
This is very personal work for me.
Politics.
I believe I was called to tell my story, use my voice, be a voice for the community, to speak to and for a community of people that's been ignored, denied, overlooked.
Religion.
This is my life's work.
Religion.
I want to use words to uplift, heal, inspire, encourage.
Do something different. Every Monday at 10.
Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I am Craig, the writer Stewart, and this is So Much to Say. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. Today we are talking to David, who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. How do you now, and how old were you when you were diagnosed?
Let's see, I'm 25 now. When I was diagnosed, I was, I think my mother for this. I was probably like 13, 14.
Okay. And did you understand what that meant? Did your mom understand what that
I knew
meant?
it was for like initially I knew it was for crazy people. I was like, my grandmother, she's schizophrenic, so that's a whole nother form of bipolar.
So do you think that means you're crazy?
Not necessarily. I don't say you crazy. I just think that you got, how can I say it? Like, you have emotional problems more than the average person. That you need a little bit more, TLC from certain folks. I would say professionals and family members possibly and friends.
So what is, in your definition, in your own personal definition, what do you think it means to be bipolar?
A chemical, like, I always go back to like the technical term of a chemical imbalance, but for me, I say it's an emotional imbalance because you really don't know what your day-to-day, for me at least, because I was diagnosed with rapid cycling. So I was diagnosed 4 or 5 times with rapid cycling. One when I was 14, continuing on when I was 19, when I tried to commit suicide and all this and that. It's a whole, yeah.
What is rapid cycling?
Basically, my moods, they fluctuate. So it's not like, I'm mad at the world. It's just I'm emotionally a wreck, basically. I'm either high or low. You know how like some people, how they can be mellow, how they just like, I'm cool sailing. Me, I'm either up high all the time or I'm like coming down from my peak moment where I'm just going to really crash. And when I crash, I'm crashing for a while, it seems like sometimes. And then I just spike back up.
Well, the actual definition of bipolar disorder is a mental disorder marked by alternating periods of elation and depression. So basically what you just said, like these highs,
and
these really, really happy moments, and then really, really low moments. So you have those, I guess, more frequently than those of us who do not have bipolar disorder.
As my father said, he was like, I hate to say it, but he was like a woman on her menstrual cycle all the time. And I was just like,
that's how he described you.
That's how he described me, rest his soul, but that's how he literally described me until he died. So
how does it play out in your life? How does bipolar disorder function, I guess, in your life? Like, is it on your way to work? Does it cause you to?
It's every moment, every aspect of my life is focuses around like my mental disorder, and it wasn't until recently, probably I would say when I got in trouble at work, when I was like, maybe I do have a problem, maybe I do need to seek out help, maybe I do need to do this, change this. It plays every aspect of my life. If I want to go to the gym, if I want to be sexually active, if I want to go on a splurging fun, like just basically going to the store, spending money for no reason, moving out of nowhere. It literally plays a part in my life every day.
So you said that you started to think maybe I do have a disorder because you know on your way to work and that kind of thing. But if you were diagnosed at 13, you already knew that there was something different.
It's a difference between being diagnosed and accepting the diagnosis. It's like a person who says, oh, well, like a woman who denies that she's pregnant, but she's really pregnant until she gives birth and like, oh, she holds the baby in her hand. It wasn't until my job slapped me with those papers saying, here's your shield for your behavior for this episode, that episode. And during the time when I had...
So it kind of chronicled it for you.
Basically. Like my job, literally, they pointed out pivotal moments that I had frequently. Like technically, I should have been fired, technically. But they, by the grace of God, they was like, no, we're going to give you basically my shield was my second chance to seek help, get yourself, you need to live, do whatever you need to do, fix you, so that way you won't interrupt your own job and interrupt your life, basically.
Some of the famous people that I'm aware of that are bipolar, most notably for me, would be Jennifer Lewis. And I remember, like a moment ago, you just said, you know, you would pack up and move. I remember seeing an interview with her, and she said that she was just driving down the street one day, wasn't in the market to purchase a house. She stopped her car. She saw a for sale sign in front of a house. She stopped her car, got out, went in, bought the house, and just kept going. Like she went into a gas station and bought a pack of gum.
That's how it is. Literally. It's like I have spent, like I can go on Macy's or H&M, for instance. I mean, that's like my high end. That's my quote-unquote high end. I'll spend $800, $900. Won't even wear the clothes. They'll be in my closet. Like I have clothes in my closet. And I don't even buy, like me, I'm not even a shopper like that. I don't even buy clothes like that. It's like I wear the same quote-unquote outfit. I wear my jogging pants and a T-shirt and a hoodie. That's my to-go outfit. I have clothes that I have never worn, will never wear.
So does it cause you to put yourself in a financial predicament?
Exactly. That's how I would, if I would have never, say, spent so much money, I probably would have been paid off all my debts. I probably would have never had debts in the first place.
So then why not just return the stuff? Or does that just not click for you?
Oh, that doesn't click. That does not click. It was like, oh no, don't. How can I say it? It's like a putinant person, as insurance would say, would do A, B, and C. But when you're not a putinant person, or you're not a logical thinker, or you're not in that right state of mind, you don't do A, B, and C. You go with Z, X, and B. All out of order.
Well, listen, when I first met you, I remember you kind of went through a string of jobs. And this was before I knew that you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder. You were working, the thing that comes to mind right away, you were working for Starbucks. And I think we were texting that day or something, and you were like, I just left my job. I just told them they got me fucked up, or whatever it was you said. It was just like the girl said to you, hey, everybody, we're going to have to stay a little late tonight, or something like that. It was something really common, something really basic. And you popped off. I'm like, the fuck I am. And you like left, and she calling and texting your phone, and you just didn't even respond, never even went back to the job.
I did go back for my last check.
But you never went back to the job.
No, I didn't.
So, like, are there moments... So, let me ask this. So, are you on any type of medication?
I'll say this. I was on medicine, and then that's when, during the time, I had some other problems going on. Like, my dad, he had got killed. So, emotionally, I was not stable when I was taking my medicine.
So, this was a long time ago?
Yeah, this happened in 2012, actually, the year my dad got killed.
Okay.
So, when he got killed, I was taking my medicine. I want to say it was Seroquel. The medicine, it was supposed to work, but the other influences in my life, it just didn't go so well. And I blamed the medicine. I was like, oh no, it's the medicine. It made me do this. It made me get a domestic violence. It did this and that. When really, it was me all along.
But were there side effects of the medication?
I don't know, because I took myself off the medicine. Right. So I really didn't give the medicine...
Give it the time to even...
Exactly, to get into my system to even give it a try.
Well, most notably, in terms of like famous people that are
Angelina Jolie,
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Demi Lovato, Amy Winehouse. And they even have Russell Brand down here. Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh yeah, she suffered from bipolar. That's why she's not even acting anymore. I
Right.
believe that's it.
Yeah. But see, the thing, going back to Jennifer Lewis.
Lauryn Hill.
You think, is Lauryn Hill?
Yeah, the Fugees, they said that they wasn't gonna get together because she literally has a mental disorder.
Well, see, I thought she had a breakdown. I thought she had a...
That is a breakdown.
I thought she had...
I digress.
I thought she had a nervous breakdown. So I didn't know that she suffered from bipolar disorder. But I mean, given what you've said today, I mean, it makes sense.
But I mean, everybody is different because I know my doctor, when I used to go to him, he used to say you have bipolar 1 and then it's bipolar 2. Bipolar 2 is a more milder version of it. And then bipolar 1, I know for a fact, is basically you're screwed.
But so what were you classified?
Bipolar 1. That's why I have the rapid cycles. My cycles are literally always up and down, up and down. Like today at work. For moments I was like, oh yeah, I'm cool. I can do this. And I was like, I'm ready to go. I was irritable.
So, but even like moving here to Atlanta, because you're originally from Ohio.
Cincinnati, born and raised.
So you moved here like just rash.
Yeah, I did.
It was a rash decision.
Yeah, I did a Jennifer Lewis move.
You didn't know anybody.
I quit
here.
my job. I didn't know anybody. Didn't know anything. Didn't have a job. I probably only had $600 in my pocket. I gave up my apartment. I told my landlord, "You can have this, fucker. I'm gone." That was were my exact words.
So from the time
gone.
that you told your landlord that you were leaving to the time that you actually got to Atlanta,
it only took 2 days. 2 days is all what it took.
and so did you pack up your stuff or you just kind of left it there?
I packed up everything. The first day, I was like, okay, I'm going to move to Atlanta. Because I had already quit the job. I was like, now I need to decide if I'm going to go back to Home Depot or if I'm going to go back to Cintas. Because that's like the uniform company I was working for. I was like, I can go back to my Monday through Friday or I can go back to something I enjoy.
Once you got to Georgia?
No, this was still in Cincinnati. Because my mind was not made up until a day later.
Oh.
The day when I told my landlord, you can have this fucker.
Right.
Basically saying you can
So
have
what
the
about your
apartment
family?
back.
Like, I know your father's deceased, but like
Yeah.
your mom, like what was she?
I didn't talk to them for a full year.
Do you think it was because of the bipolar disorder or because of some other?
Looking back and reading, like, because I do keep a journal. I keep a journal of, like, I call it my little grimoire, basically, my little black book, basically. Looking back, I was going through episodes and I was angry, basically, for no reason.
So what's your plan in terms of getting on medication? Like what?
Well, I do see my doctor. Well, they do a phone interview because I got, Kaiser Permanente. They do a phone interview basically to see what you're going to qualify for. And then that's when they say after that, we can go ahead and schedule you a psychiatrist.
So have you done the phone part?
Not yet. I was at work on Monday when it happened. So, no.
You were at work on Monday when what happened?
When they called. So, I couldn't.
So why didn't you? Would they only do it Monday through Friday?
Yeah, Monday through Friday, typically at 11:30.
So why don't you schedule it during a break when you're at work?
Well, my breaks, the way my job works, we're customer oriented, so it's no. Can I get my break at 11:30 so I can take this call?
Well, no, but you have a set break, right?
Yeah, but no, it does vary day by day.
Okay, so like today you were off at 2:00. Why can't you schedule it on a day?
Because they don't have any. You have to call them and they'll tell you exactly what day they have appointments available.
So you could essentially just be going around here forever without.
Oh no, I'm taking that out the air. I'm not going around, spazzing out on emotions.
No, I didn't say going
down.
around spazzing out. I'm saying so you could essentially be going around for a long time without getting this assessment done.
Yeah, but that would be on my end though. Because I did say, like, the next appointment that I think that she said was available, if I'm not mistaken, I wrote it down on my desk, was on the 26th or something like that. Same time, though. And I had to just put my manager to the side and tell him, like, I have something important going on. I need this amount of time available. He's like, I can see what I can do for you. So, I mean, it's almost like I extend the olive branch to see what I can do. And if not, I just got to take one on the chin and get it done myself.
So how has bipolar disorder interrupted your life in terms of dating per se?
I have never had a boyfriend.
Well, there are a lot of people that have never had
I know, but I've never had a boyfriend. I've never been stable. I wouldn't even say I've never been stable. I have never been emotionally ready, even though even right now I can say I'm ready to date, I'm ready to do this, but I don't think I've really mentally emotionally been ready for anything in my life.
Well, I think a part of that is preparing yourself.
Yeah.
I think the first step is getting what you need for yourself. Like, how can you offer anything to someone
When you
on
don't
an
have
emotional level if you're not even,
Emotional
secure
there.
and stable? Yeah. Like, if you make these rash and sudden, impetuous movements and decisions, because for me, a part of choosing a great partner is choosing someone who makes good, sound decisions for themselves.
Or even a friendship.
Well, yeah, because even like when we first met, again, you had a really close friend who in my opinion, was really good to you, who was really supportive of you. He's older, but he was really trying to show you the ropes. You met him like shortly after you got to Atlanta because you jumped on the bus and came to Atlanta, right?
No, actually, I had my friend. He was from Cincinnati, moved down here like prior to me moving down here. He was just in Cincinnati visiting. I was like, "Hey, I'm in town. Can you take me down to Georgia?" And it was like a sure.
So you jumped in the car with him.
Yeah.
So when you came down here, where did you live?
A boarding house in Bankhead.
So pause there. So you met this guy, this older guy, who was really good to you once you got down here.
Right, and there was no sex involved whatsoever.
Right. And you lived in a boarding house, but you were having really difficult times because you did not have a job.
Well, I got a job the second week I moved here.
Okay, but you were here for 2 weeks without a job.
Yeah, this is true.
He helped you pay your rent at that boarding house at least a time or two.
Yes.
According to what you shared with me. And I'm now suspecting that the reason you cut him off is because of your condition. You just stopped talking to him.
Well, I wouldn't say stop talking. It was more of I actually remember the exact date. It was New Year's Eve of 2016.
Okay, but looking back, you realize that it wasn't really
worth it.
Just cause.
Right. It was stupid. It was petty. It was like, what?
So why? I'm trying to understand, like, how do you move forward? Because it's obvious that there's a pattern in terms of your behavior, an erratic pattern, if you will. And so you have to be on medication because, again, going back to Jennifer Lewis, one of the things that she said also in another interview, she knows when she has to get on her medication. Yeah. She said there were times where she felt like she could do it without the medication. Mm-hmm. And she said, but she wouldn't stay, she couldn't concentrate enough to learn her lines for a role, or she might, just be really, really unpredictable. So she said, I have to be on my medication. So are you at the point where you understand, think or believe or feel that you need or should be on medication?
I think I was at that point when I first started my job this year. And
how long have you been on this job?
It'll be a year in February. This is something new.
So when are you going to make this a priority?
Today. I mean, it's been a priority. It's just I would say the appointment that I had recently made for Monday was probably the first time when I was living in Georgia that I made it a priority. Mm-hmm. Because before I was just like, I know this, I know that. I thought I knew everything. And as you know, I don't know everything. Mm-hmm.
Now, does it cause you to, does bipolar disorder cause you to be kind of cavalier or nonchalant when it comes to sex?
Oh, Craig. I wouldn't say cavalier, but as we said last night, everything I do is kind of in a sexual manner. But I wouldn't say that. I would say that, well, yes, it does. Promiscuity, folks, is what it is.
You making up words.
I digress. But yeah, it's almost as though it's like every day, just like, hey, what's your name?
So is it daily? Is it every day?
No. I do go, it's like if I find that one person, then that's when I'm going to be, I don't want to say I'm going to be a hoe with that person, but I'm going to be fluent with that one person.
Is it something that you feel that you have to disclose when you date people or, get involved? Now, I don't mean just someone that might just be someone you meet one time.
If I'm bipolar, what do we need to? I mean, people.
Well, because you explained to me one time some guy that you were dating.
Yeah, trying to date.
And you popped off on him, And he said,
"This is too much for me to handle." He was like, "I can take this."
well, give us the story. I know the story.
Okay, this is how it was. I was trying to get to know a guy. I wasn't dating him yet. I was trying to get to know him. I'm not a complex person. Well, I am a complex person.
Complex.
I got layers upon layers like the Bible.
We all do, but you cannot sit here and say that you're not complex. Finish the story.
One day, I don't even know why I was irritated. No, I was over his house actually, and you know how when you're trying to get to know somebody or y'all two, you're comfortable with each other and you want to foreplay, but the other person's like, "Get off of me."
So who was saying get off of me?
Me. I was get the hell off of me.
And you said it like that?
I was like, "Can you please get the fuck off of me?" Those were my exact words. I was irritated. I get irritated real quickly. Like I can go from being like, playing and this and that, so I'm irritable now. Get off of me. If I say that and you don't get off of me, so I packed up my little belongings, even my toothbrush I had over his place. I packed that up and I did. I left. I took the Uber home.
That's my question. So you didn't think that it was necessary at some point to clue him in that perhaps you have bipolar disorder?
Oh, he knew about that months prior to that incident.
So
it's
that's what I'm asking. So when do you feel an obligation to disclose that you were diagnosed with bipolar disorder?
It depends on how I don't know, because that's like some people, they experience with bipolar folks ain't the best, and I leave a sour taste in people's mouth after I have an episode sometimes.
So sometimes you tell them, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
So in this case, you chose to tell them. What were the circumstances? Why did you?
Because I would say I wasn't. I don't want to say I was in love, but you know how you can get the jury bugs, and it's more than just the sex. It's more than just the.
How long were you in?
We had met
dating?
Probably. It wasn't dating. We probably met the March.
It wasn't dating, but you had a toothbrush at his house.
Yes, I had a toothbrush at his house. It was just getting to know.
You think I just got people with toothbrushes at my house? Go ahead.
No, it was just a cordial, like, even he said we're not dating. So I was like, okay, we're getting to know each other.
So at what point did you tell him, and how long were you communicating?
I probably told him probably in April when I turned 25. Because I met him in March when I got my first apartment down here.
So you told him about a month?
Yeah.
After knowing him?
Because you know how you start to see somebody on the regular.
Yeah.
And you thinking like, what are you doing here?
So tell us what you said. What did you say?
I was like, you tell them everything and this and that. And I was like, I am bipolar, just want to let you know. He was like, okay. Really can't really remember the exact way I told him. I was like, I'm bipolar, as you know.
And he just said, okay.
He was like, okay. It was almost like a dragged out okay, like, oh, okay.
So then we fast forward to this episode where you said, get the fuck up.
That was the last episode I think I had with him. I had plenty of food. I had a lot more episodes in between.
So were there conversations in between where he said, listen, I think maybe this bipolar thing happening.
No, he never really pushed that on me.
Uh-huh. Had you ever said, okay, you know what, I probably lashed out a little bit the other day, and I think that may have been one of my...
No, I know one thing I do. If I know I had an episode, I would not say it's my bipolar. I don't put the blame on my bipolar. I put it on myself mostly. I was like, sorry I lashed out on you the other day. It was not, I didn't intend it to be like that, but I apologize.
Okay, so take us back to the day where you said, get the fuck up off of me. What did he say?
He was like, what? He didn't say much because I didn't give him much. I didn't give him room to say anything.
So what happened next?
I didn't speak for him. Like, he didn't speak to me for...
Did you get up and leave?
Yes, I got up and leave. Remember,
that.
I got up and I packed up my shit. And as I packed up my toothbrush and I got on my shoes and I took my charger, I went ahead and ordered my Uber from his house to mine. It was only like $3, so it really wasn't dramatic as I thought it was going to be like a $20 ride. So it wasn't that dramatic, but... It was to him, as he said, he was like, I'm not finna allow somebody to, regardless of the circumstances, just to basically be disrespectful in my face and leave like that without even saying why you're leaving.
Because that's a power move. I call those power moves.
I still don't.
That's a power move. Because see, when you pack your shit and pack up all your stuff, what you're communicating to me is, fuck you, I'm getting all of my shit. and I'm leaving, and I want to leave you here feeling stupid. I want to leave you here feeling empty. I want to leave you here feeling clueless. I want to leave you here feeling numb. I want you to feel all of that emptiness when I exit. And so that's a power move.
But that was not my intention.
But that's what you did. I've had people do that before.
Oh.
And I've done that. Like when I was 27, I dated a guy, the first guy that I really, really fell in love with. But the reason that I did it at the time, and this is not an excuse, but looking back, I realized the reason that I did it was because I was not emotionally mature. So my circumstance was different from yours. But it was a power move, and it was my way of trying to control him. I thought that if I packed my shit up and left, I would get him to come and respond and do what I wanted him to do. And oftentimes, he did, but then it got to a point where it was like, okay, listen. And he said to me, he said, every single time that you do that, you take a piece of me when you leave. And not only do you take a piece of me, it causes me to disconnect from you a bit more each time that you do it. And so he was becoming numb to it. And he got to the point where he didn't want to do it anymore because it's just like, listen, you're not going to keep leaving me empty like this. And so that's a power move. And so the first time that somebody did it to me, I told him, because he left, he packed all of his shit, left out of my place. I heard him coming back down the hallway, and he knocked on the door, and I opened the door. And he said to me, Craig, I don't want to leave like this. I don't want to fight like this. And I said to him, I said, let me explain something to you. Now, this was years after I had been doing it to my ex. I said to him, I said, let me explain something to you. I said, let that be the last time you ever pull that. I said, because that's a power move. And these were my exact words to him. I said, that's a power move. I said, so what you just communicated to me was that you were done. I said, so if you ever pull that again, you better be clear that that's what you want to do because there will be no coming back.
Well, I was done for the day.
No. Then you should have said, and I know we have to ascribe this to the bipolar condition, but what I'm saying is what you should have done was, hey, I'm about to go ahead and leave. You should have just gone in and left, but you didn't have to pack up your toothbrush because see, what you were sending a message. Oh, I'm getting my toothbrush. I'm getting my clothes. Let me get my shoes on. Oh, you were sending a message. It's a power move.
That's not a power. I did not intend it to be a power move.
Take us to the next day or the 2 days, because you went 2 days after that, right? 2-3 days, and then you tried to text him or call him. Okay, you went an entire week.
A week.
And you did what?
I texted him and he responded. He was like, he felt it was disrespectful. He came over, and immediately it didn't even feel right. It didn't.
The energy was off.
It was like literally you can feel. It felt like somebody had just lifted the oxygen in the room. It was so tense. It was like, hello.
He's better than I am because you wouldn't have been able to come to my house.
No, he didn't come.
I wouldn't have gone over to y'all. In fact, I wouldn't have even responded to your fucking text message.
He was a loving guy. I wish I could get him back, but I know I can't.
And I have my red receipts on my iPhone, so you would have known that I had read your message and ignored you.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that.
That's a power move.
I don't know.
You hit me with a power move, and then I'm gonna hit you.
But I even told him, I was like, I left, and he was like, but why go so long without saying anything? And I was like, I don't know. It was just, in my instance, I really didn't think about why didn't I go that long.
That means I'm done. That you communicated, I'm done.
Yeah.
You communicated it when you packed up your shit. You communicated it when you went an entire week without saying a word. You went radio silent, and you thought he was supposed to be sitting there waiting for you, ready to welcome you with open arms when you got ready to come back?
I knew it was going to be a conversation, but I didn't know the air would be so tense though when he got back. It was like I know I was wrong. I even apologized, but I even told him I was getting irritable, and when I get irritable, and it's like if I can't stop a situation, it does lead to violence, and violence leads to the police being called. And as we know, as a black man, we don't need that anymore.
Okay, so obviously you're aware that there's a pattern
right
in your personal life.
I know my triggers.
You're right, but you're going to continue to get triggered until you get some sort of treatment.
Right at work, it's like even at work. For instance, this is why I got a shield because my manager, she told me. Like, for instance, she gave me a shield for my attendance. I was like, okay. For one, it was debatable if I should have got that shield or not.
What's a shield? Like a shield is accommodation?
No, I wish it was an accommodation, but no. It's basically saying you got 1 foot in the door and 1 out the door.
Okay.
And basically, I was
like a write-up.
Yeah, that's what I should call it. It's a write-up. And I was just like, are you serious that you gonna give me this? Like, my words is like, so my point fall off tomorrow, and you still gonna give me a shield? She's like, yeah, you accumulated 16 points. At that point, I was shut off. I was done. I was pissed off. And I was just like, okay, I'm not complicated to work with.
So you say.
I'm not, because I can accept when I'm wrong. I was like, okay, I'm wrong. I told her, well, do me a favor. You can go ahead and write up the papers. And I probably said it a little bit more direct.
Okay, so you said you're not complicated to work with. Let's go back a little bit. You also worked, when you were working at the Starbucks, you also worked at the FedEx.
And I was working at the bank. At 3 jobs at once.
3 jobs at once. And you were kind of erratic at those places. See, you forget I know who you are.
No, it's not that. I was working 3 jobs, Craig. 3 jobs.
But you stormed out of the Starbucks.
I did.
Because she said, oh, hey, guys, we're going to have to work a little late tonight. And then something similar.
No, FedEx, I was tired. I was just mentally, like, I was tired. Like, physically, I should say I was tired.
But remember, at that time, I was saying to you,
yeah,
you can't do 3 jobs.
And I wanted to prove you wrong. I wanted to be like, I can do this. I can work 3 jobs and maintain my physical being and my mental being. Mentally, I was already gone when I signed up for the 3rd job at the bank. So I was like, mentally, you should have, bam, I was done right there.
Here's what I'm hearing. There was a disconnect in your relationship with your mom, and you ascribed that to the bipolar disorder, because you said you hadn't spoken to your mom in about a year.
Yeah, my whole family, even my grandma, who I adore more than life itself.
Correct. Are you in communication with them now?
Yeah, I talk to them now. I just haven't been back home in 2 years going on.
Okay. After the relationship with your mom, we talked about the friend that you had here, the older guy who was really nice to you, who was really just trying to help you get on your feet. You cut that relationship off, which you ascribe to the bipolar disorder. Then the relationship over at Starbucks with the job.
I wouldn't say relationship.
Well, not the relationship, but your position, your part-time position, you stormed out. Then this dating scenario, this situationship, as you want to call it, with this guy, you stormed out of there. So there's a pattern here. So how do you, until you get to this medication or until you get to a therapist to be able to really walk and talk through these
life-breathing scenarios.
Yeah. Do you journal? Like, what's the fix?
I honestly don't know. Like, literally, like, I take days off. Like, I don't know what the fix is. Like, literally, when I was younger, it was easy for me to just go in my room, lock the door. But as an adult, you got bills to pay. You got to take your ass to work. It's no locking the door. No, I'm just sitting in my pillow and cry because I'm emotionally unstable right now, and I feel down, and I feel lonely.
So do you feel stressed? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel worried, anxious? Like what?
Like you feel, it's like a plethora of, is that the word?
That's
plethora?
it.
A plethora of words, of emotions that you feel. Some days I feel, like recently I was telling somebody I felt lonely. And it was like why do you feel lonely? You always doing this, you're always doing that. And I was just like, I want to come home to something. And that's where I had actually purchased a dog, and he pissed in the bed and thought that the dog was going to feel that void of loneliness.
So would you say that getting the dog was...
No, getting the dog made me irritable.
No. Well, getting the dog, was that a rash decision? Was it impetuous?
Yeah. It was. I bought
so how long did you keep the dog?
I knew you was going to ask that. I kept the dog for... It would have been 7 days that Sunday, but it was only 6 days because I sold him back on Sunday of the following week.
So the dog urinated where?
On my pillow. Well, on the bed.
Which dogs do until they're trained?
He didn't do that before.
And so you...
But it wasn't even like a lot of pee. It was just like a drizzle, and I was just like, oh no.
But basically what I'm hearing you say is situations that are common, that aren't out of the ordinary or extraordinary, you sometimes...
Irrationally.
You become really irrational in situations that should not be really blown out of proportion, I guess is the easiest way to say it. As it relates to black people, because oftentimes we hear these conversations about black folks not discussing certain things. Mental health. And
they don't believe in therapy. That's what white folks do.
Right. What would you say to that?
In my family, that was not the rule. In my family, is we're going to go see a therapist. My mama had a family therapist. She had a therapist for us. She had a therapist. She had a journal. I I don't want to say we're just, as folks would say, y'all just like to build the white version of the Cosby family. No, my grandma, she had to grow up with my grandma. So she didn't want to have that type of environment anymore. She wanted better,
because your maternal...
Yeah, my mother's grandma, my mother's mother is schizophrenic. So she didn't want to grow up. She didn't want to live like that anymore.
Is there any other history in your family of mental illness?
Ooh, child, we can go down the whole line. It's a whole.
Is it all on your mom's side, or is
Well, my dad's side, since they all Moravians, I don't know. Well, I know. Well, two of my cousins have been locked up in prison. I know one is actually diagnosed with bipolar, but he's like
that's on your dad's side?
Yeah, but he's like borderline, I would call schizophrenic, but he's an arsonist too, so, and he's in jail for attempted murder and all that.
So in terms of your immediate family, you and do you have any siblings?
I got two sisters and one brother. My brother, he was diagnosed with bipolar and ADD, or it was an ADHD. One of those, the hyperactive attention disorder, and
ADHD.
also bipolar. So it was like with that part, I was like, I am not you, and that's how I always looked at it. My brother, he was always looked at as the bad one, and I was looked at as the good one, as the good boy, and I was just like, I'm not bipolar because I'm the good child. That's how I looked at it for so many years.
So there is a history in your family on both sides.
On both sides, yeah. You can say that, yeah.
Was your grandmother on medication?
My grandma, she was on medication my whole life growing up until probably was like I was a teenager. My grandmother, she was in and out of prison too. So she was a violent, like her fits would be violent. And then when she would get out of prison and stuff, or not prison, but what's those things called? Behavior centers. Mm-hmm. She would take her medicine and it would make her real sleepy. And for me, I was like, I'm not finna take medicine like that because she would take like 16 pills plus a shot. Now I think that she just passed on to just getting a shot in the butt or whatever. I was like, that's not how I'm finna live my life. I'm not finna be taking a whole bunch of pills. No, that's not what I want to do.
So would it be safe to say that part of the reason that you didn't go and get treatment sooner is because you were in denial? Like you said, yes, you were diagnosed when you were, how old, 12?
14, 13, around that age.
But even though you were diagnosed at 12 or 14, 13 or 14, it still took a period of time before you accepted it. So would you say that part of it is because you were in quote-unquote denial, or because your grandmother, you saw what medication looked like,
yeah.
So you were just kind of resisting because of that?
I would say part of it, the first part was I was just in denial because I was always considered to be, oh, David, that's his brother. No, his brother's more like that. And I'm like, see, people don't see it. Mm-hmm. My mother seen it, but people did not see it who was outside of the family. People looking inside the family was like, David? No, he wouldn't do that. That's not the David I know. Well, David is like of a whole bunch of different faces and shades, as everyone who close to me knows. And then it was like the medicine part. It was just as I got older, when they tried to introduce the medication, since the therapy by itself wasn't working, they was like, well, we need to intrude something. So
and when you're saying therapy, you mean going to a counselor? Exactly.
So they was like, we're going to introduce another type of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Medication.
So what would you say to those that may suspect that they are suffering, or I don't know if suffering is the right word, but...
Yeah, it is. Because you put yourself through a phase of where majority of people who are diagnosed with bipolar mm-hmm. or have not been clinically diagnosed, like through a therapist, a mm-hmm. psychiatrist, like that, end up dead anyway. They end up killing themselves. Like the suicide rates are mostly for people who, if I'm not mistaken, if you can quote me on that one, mostly people who have and do suffer with bipolar disorder do commit suicide or have tried to commit suicide.
Have attempted, or they
attempted or have.
And is that because they're not on medication, or even while they're on medication?
Both. And it's like, to me, I always say you need a support system. You cannot be your support system. You looking yourself in the mirror every day, and people like, well, you need to pick yourself back up. It's easy for one person to say that, but until you actually gotta live in my skin, not my shoes, but my skin, because my shoes you can take off, but my skin and my brain you can't take off. That's you now.
Mm-hmm. So what are your action items? Like, what's your goal in terms of getting to the therapist and getting onto medication? Like, what's your time frame?
Time frame, hopefully by the end of the year I'll be...
End of the year, it's January.
You didn't let me finish. I was going to say by the end of the year I'm a whole person again, because right now...
But the question is, what's your time frame for getting on medication?
Oh, hopefully before I turn 26.
And your
For
birthday is in
April.
April.
We're just giving them all the information. They're going to look at my social next. Do we need that?
You finished? Oh, okay. But, I actually have a relative, and I believe that she may be, I don't know if it's bipolar or if it's a mild case of schizophrenia, because she will do and say some of the most unusual things. Like, for example, she lives alone. She has an apartment. She lives alone. And she, for whatever reason, thinks that someone is coming into her apartment and moving things, like misplacing things. Like when she can't find something or something is misplaced, she swears that somebody came into her apartment and moved it. Case in point, she ordered a pizza. And you know how the pizza comes in a box. Mm-hmm. And she said that before, the entire box would fit into her microwave. Like when she was done and she wasn't finished eating it, she would put the pizza box in the microwave. And she said when she left and came back to it, it wouldn't fit. Like all of a sudden it won't fit. Somebody came in here and changed out my microwave. She swears somebody came in, switched out her microwave.
That don't sound like bipolar. That sounds more like my grandma.
Right, that's what I'm saying. She may have mild cases of
that ain't no
schizophrenia.
mild. That's like full blown. You schizophrenic.
But if she was sitting here, it would be such a normal conversation.
Yeah.
She has these incredible
that's
mood swings.
schizophrenia.
Well, perhaps it is.
If you, because I've been around my grandma. I love my grandma, and I hate to say I love you more than life itself. Again, but when I say when you around somebody and you know if they turn completely south on the conversation when you wasn't even talking about, like my grandma, she loved to talk about the Bible. And she quick to throw out, well, the spirits told me, the Holy Ghost told me such and such about this person. I'm like, what?
But like in the case with my aunt, it's like
missing objects, paranoia. Yeah, she might want to seek medical.
But in the case with my family member, she was just at Thanksgiving. And my cousin said she didn't even speak to us. She spoke to 2 or 3 of the people that were at the table, and she didn't speak to anybody else. Like, that's unusual.
And with age, but for women, they say women particularly don't suffer from schizophrenia, but I can name quite a few women that I've encountered who have had schizophrenia. And it's like, I hate to say it, but she may really want to seek professional.
But and I think that what happens is family have kind of overlooked it.
Yeah,
because there was a history of drugs, too. Like, years she was on drugs. So I think some of them think that, well, maybe she's just a little off.
But did they ever take into account of why she was on drugs? Did they ever consult her or console her?
Well, my thing is, I've always said to her, one of her daughters, I'm like, listen, y'all need to take her someplace and have her evaluated.
Why couldn't y'all do that?
Who?
You. It's family.
Yeah, it is family, but listen.
As my mama said, when it comes down to family, it's boundaries that have to be crossed.
And I understand that, but my responsibility or where I stop is having the conversation with her daughter and say, listen, but her daughter said, no, we've talked to her. She's like, ain't nothing wrong with me. I ain't going to speak to no counselor.
It's ways to admit a person. My mother did it to my grandma several times.
To commit somebody to a
psychiatric hospital, and when they do admit you, they gonna keep you for 3 days. They kept her for 9 days, so actually.
Well, she definitely needs an evaluation.
Because if they don't want to go, you can forcibly commit a person, but they gotta have like ways of where you can think that they're gonna be a menace to either themselves or society somewhere.
Well, that's just it. She hasn't been a menace to herself or to anyone else. She just makes these unusual choices, and you're just like for example, like. She has when she leaves out of her apartment, she has like a lock that she puts on the outside as well. Like, it's just, you're just looking at her like, okay. Like, for example, like she doesn't want like my other relatives to really know where she lives.
My grandma was like that for a while, and that's when she got her new shot, and she was like, oh, why hasn't such and such came over? Why hasn't Victoria came over? Because you told us not to tell her. You told us that she's a thief. That she stole your husband. No, that's not the woman who did that. It's the one he's married to.
So what would you say to someone that's listening or someone who may be, who make erratic decisions more often than not? And what would you say to someone who's listening who perhaps may know someone that may be bipolar? What's your advice?
You got to accept responsibility. I mean, the disease is there. If you can accept, like, okay, as a person, like, I know I have a little bit of a problem that may need to get help. It's almost like a drug addict, basically. And I don't even want to say it that because that gives a negative connotation. Mm-hmm. It's just you need a little extra TLC with somebody that can actually talk to you, maybe put you on medication. Because if you don't, it's either one or two things. You're going to be you're going to be dead because you're going to kill yourself, or B, you're going to maybe in jail if you are, quote unquote, a violent offender, like some folks in this room. Trust me, I caught some charges because of my actions. So it's like and it's the way that you approach it for those who are listening, who do think like, oh yeah, I know such and such. My sister definitely is bipolar. It's a way to do it and a way not to do it. Don't just go in there and say you bipolar. No, because that's going to automatically, a person's going to put up a brick wall. They're going to put up that wall and be like, no, I'm not crazy. Especially for black people. When we hear the word bipolar, the first thing that we think of is what? Oh, she crazy. No, that's not just bipolar. It's just your moods they fluctuate. Bipolar is you have depression, you have the manic stage. You got plentiful of ways, plentiful, is that the word?
Plenty of ways.
Plenty of ways to go about it. Research. First of all, I would say talk to a doctor to see if...
And most of the treatment is covered by insurance.
Exactly. And some people, they think, and it's a lot for folks who don't have insurance. It's a lot of free places to get treatment. They don't want crazies walking around. There's enough of them.
Well, I think you have to be a little more responsible with your language, too, by calling yourself and other people crazy because they have bipolar disorder, because that's part of the stigma behind it.
It is. Well, it's a lot of mentally unstable people out here. And I would say that because I'm mentally unstable. Like, if I don't get medication, I don't want to say that on this because it may come back and haunt me one day. But I would say there will be bloodshed, there will be violence, because I know how I am.
Well, my hope is that you will get the treatment that you need, that you'll get the medication that you need, so we don't even have to
go that route.
Correct. Thank you guys for listening to this podcast. This is So Much to Say. If you're listening for the very first time, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. We're available in SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, wherever you can listen to a podcast, including YouTube. And if you're interested in more information about myself, my website is www.craigthewriterstewart.com. And my Instagram is at Craig the Writer Stewart. My Facebook is Craig the Writer Stewart as well. Every Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. I go live on Facebook. We talk about everything under the sun. Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with your friends, your family, your network. We'll see you next Monday.